I'll just get him to kick you.
Who?
Arianas.
No, he won't kick me for you.
There's no middle ground. You guys can't like negotiate.
There's no newness.
There's got some vagueness somewhere. Gigi, I know that Sean doesn't like the titles of the videos for sure, right? So that's one thing that you might could.
Well, see, I have a problem with that because I'm upset then because Sean was lying to me because he told me none of this stuff bothers him. So I'm confused. Why would the titles matter if they don't affect him? I don't. It's like seems like a contradiction.
He's suppressing the truth and unrighteousness, but.
Did you lie to me, Sean?
Would you be willing to go with something like Sean tries again or something?
Well, I don't like the dishonesty. So if he admits that he lost the debate, then I'll change the title to Sean versus Red Robin or whatever the fuck his name is, J Robin.
Wait, but that's going to be subjective. But if he admits he lied to you about not caring, could you change the title? That seems like fair, no? Because he may genuinely not believe he lost.
I don't believe that he claims that he never he has won some of the debates with me. I don't believe that he really believes that. Do you?
I admitted 25 minutes ago or whatever it was that it bothered me.
Why'd you lie?
The bullshit that she was doing. Because it doesn't bother me to the extent when it's just fun and games. But it bothers me when you ramp up the toxicity and you just follow me into rooms. And
I don't follow you into rooms.
That I'm uploading. You take it too far, and it does bother me.
I don't follow you into rooms, but I don't understand. Do the titles bother you?
Look, you're following me into rooms. You're getting other people to talk shit about me. You're starting a whole fucking shitting on Sean fest for no reason when I'm just trying to chill, and that's unacceptable.
Sean, you keep engaging in the debate.
And it bothers me.
Why do you keep engaging in the debates?
I'm allowed to engage in debate.
But if you know what the result is going to be, why do you?
The result is you humiliate yourself in the actual debates.
Yeah, see, now he's being dishonest. See,
shit.
Nobody here believes that you believe
now
that.
I'm being honest. No, of course they do. Plenty of people
they believe that you believe I lost and was humiliated. Yes. No, who believes that?
Yes.
Nobody believes that. Who believes that?
The last couple of videos on Daz's channel, all the videos are making fun of. All the comments are making fun of.
Who in here do you thinks that I lost the debate and was humiliated?
They can all speak if they want to. If they
okay, well, let's just go through.
Anyone in here that feels
Truthy, do you think that I lost the debate and was humiliated by Sean?
Remember, I told you my position earlier when we talked about it. It didn't look very good for you, Sean.
Yeah, I don't care about John Lee's opinion, obviously.
I don't remember discussing whether or not I was humiliated, Truthy. Do you think I feel humiliated by Sean?
But he didn't watch the last 2 videos where you ran away from the self-defeat argument.
He was there for that.
Realized that self-defeat was a fallacy. No, well, I don't know if he was.
So you're just contradicting yourself because you're saying that intuitions are justifiers and that you have the intuition that foundational beliefs are true, but foundational beliefs are unjustified by definition. So what you're saying is, you stupid, retarded, asinine, moronic fool, you fucking idiot. Beliefs are unjustified by definition. So what you're saying is, you stupid, retarded, asinine, moronic fool, you fucking idiot.
Does anyone think that that's good, that that's even a good argument?
What argument?
Exactly, you fucking idiot.
What argument?
Yeah, no one thinks that.
Foundational beliefs are
what argument?
Truthy, can you boot Daniel
what saying is, you stupid,
this is just interrupting this whole thing.
So wait, I'm sorry. Who did you say believes that I was humiliated, Sean? Daniel, do you believe I was humiliated?
So
Sean says that people here believe I was humiliated in the debates.
Can you get rid of Daniel?
Converse, do you believe that I was
fucking recordings from the fucking stupid debate of Godless saying stupid shit?
I mean, bro,
This whole
like,
conversation.
honestly, if you're not interested in being around them, like, you don't have to. Like, I don't want to do the mod game unless it's like super ridiculous.
Shruti, can I play just a small section which
forcing me to fucking leave,
which substantiates Godless's claim? I can actually prove her claim. You'll allow me.
I mean, bro, like Sean's had a rough day, man. Like, you just take it easy on him.
All right, I'll just play it one time, and it's like 2 seconds.
Is that you have justification? So what you're saying is.
So what you're saying is, you stupid, retarded ass, ironic guy, that intuitions are justified, but they're not actually justified. So,
let me finish it.
Duh, you don't know what justification is. Duh. Yeah, that's a really good argument. Yeah, I just told you what it says. No.
Hold on, Sean.
Beliefs are unjustified by definition.
Oh, beliefs
So what you're saying is, you stupid, retarded ass, fucking idiot, is that you have a justification for beliefs that are not justified.
You have justification for beliefs that are not justified.
Yeah, and that's a contradiction.
Yeah, and that's not what I fucking said, and that's not the fucking argument. So fuck off.
Oh yeah, Detroyer. Oh my god. So I have to talk to Detroyer. So Detroyer, it was like 2 nights ago. I was like, Sean, what are you talking about? Who do you thinks that you won those debates? And he tried to name a few people in the room, and so I asked those people if they thought he won, and they were like, no, we don't think that. And I'm like, so who else, Sean? And he said Detroyer. Is it true that you think that Sean won one of the debates about epistemology with me, Detroyer? Because that's what he said.
I don't know.
I didn't say that. I said you thought I was. I heard you say that you thought I was in better form in the last debate that we had.
That's not what you
said.
That's not what I'm talking about, Sean.
Yeah, and I said maybe he thinks. You asked me who I thinks I won.
Yeah, and I don't believe that you believe Detroyer really thinks that.
Well, I don't know. You haven't asked for his fucking opinion. Neither have I.
I just did.
Well, you can fucking give it if he wants. I don't give a shit.
It sounds like he doesn't want to tell you that you lost. He's saying he doesn't know.
I mean, you think, I don't know. I assume that Detroyer, thinks that some version of the self-defeat argument against universal skepticism is substantive. You had no real response to the argument.
To what argument?
You asked me how it's a fallacy or something stupid.
To what argument?
Ran away from the argument, and then you asked me for my account of justification or whatever.
What argument? Sorry, I didn't hear you. What argument are you talking about?
The self-defeat argument.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Is he said that I don't know what it means for a worldview to be self-defeating, yet it doesn't entail a contradiction. Maybe I'm wrong, but I really can't think of an example. What do you guys think?
Well, you could think, and maybe this is what self-defeat could be, is that a view sort of sets up requirements of itself that it can't satisfy or doesn't satisfy. Is that a contradiction? Maybe construed one way, but it's not. Maybe it's not strictly a contradiction.
It sets up what for itself? Did you say?
Well, conditions that it has to satisfy, but then it doesn't satisfy them.
Oh, well, mine doesn't do that.
I agree, but yeah.
What conditions does mine set up for itself, Sean?
I didn't know that. I don't need to know the.
And nobody you think that's like a joke, Daniel?
Oh, were you serious?
I didn't know that. I don't need to know the extent of it. I didn't.
Can you fucking kick him, dude? He's not.
Okay, Daniel, don't play the recording because then they'll trick you. Don't play the recording, Daniel.
Just think Sean is.
What the fuck is he doing? Shut the fuck up. The big boys are talking.
Who? Who's Sean talking about? Who are the big boys? Who are the big boys?
Yeah, you made it.
Talking about self-defeat arguments and how self-defeat arguments work. To get it through your thick fucking head, the universal skepticism is self-defeating.
Oh, how is it? So, what requirements does it set up for itself that it can't meet? I don't see how it sets up any requirements for itself. I don't understand.
Because you're a fucking idiot.
Oh, I don't think you know either, and I think that if you did, you would explain it. So if you expect everybody here to be so,
okay. You want me to explain it to you again?
Sure.
That's what you're saying?
Yeah. What requirements does it set up for itself? Because I don't see how it sets up any requirements.
You're a fucking headphones. Someone's dying. Well, first of all, you never asked. You never got Detroyer's opinion, right? You wanted Detroyer's opinion so bad.
Yeah, he said he doesn't think it's self-defeating.
You didn't say that.
Detroyer, didn't you say you don't think it's self-defeating?
Yeah, that's correct.
Haha. Sean, you're such a clown.
But you don't think epistemic nihilism is self-defeating, Detroyer?
No, I don't.
You think universal skepticism is self-defeating?
By universal skepticism, do you mean something like the Peronian version, or just the view that we don't have any knowledge or anything like that? If you're just saying that, I don't think the view that we have no knowledge is self-defeating. I'm trying to think of how it could be. I mean, maybe if we had some...
You couldn't actually say that we have no knowledge, right? You couldn't assert it, right?
You can make all kinds of assertions. People make all kinds of assertions all the time that they don't know.
Yeah, so I can assert it. Like,
people assert they know God exists. What are you talking about, Sean? Do they know that God exists?
But you can also assert something and deny that you know it. So, this came up I've given this example elsewhere, which is that suppose like a condition for knowledge was that it's revealed to you by God. That's what just part of what a requirement of knowledge is. Leave it aside the details of exactly what that involves, revealed by God, whatever. I don't think God revealed anything to me. And so on that sense of knowledge, I don't think I quote unquote know anything. But I haven't fallen into any absurdity here. I can make that assertion. I can have that belief. And that's what I would think is right on that sense of the term knowledge. Actually, I don't think this situation is really any different on any other conception of knowledge. Unless the denial of knowledge in that other sense has other implications beyond just my beliefs not falling under this category that we're calling knowledge. If you think of, I don't know, I guess you can think of something that might be a consequence of some other sense of knowledge that would be relevant.
So Sean, what requirements do you think it sets up for itself?
Right, like the universal skeptic. Okay, so skeptic is a person who believes skepticism. If skepticism is true, it follows, right, that all beliefs are unjustified. Talking about universal skepticism, like the belief that all beliefs are unjustified, I think is pretty clearly what Godless's position is.
Yeah.
Therefore, the belief in skepticism itself is unjustified.
Yeah, that's correct.
Isn't there something wrong with making an assertion and at the same time saying that one's own assertion is unjustified?
Something inconsistent about it. I mean, perhaps there's some, maybe norm we have, turning to only assert the things that for which we have justification. Is that something like Gracian norm? I don't know. Maybe something like that.
Yeah, but in my view, I'm not going to agree with Sean's norm, so my view is consistent.
Yeah.
On some norm, saying logically, she gives the argument. The conclusion is that no one is justified. There's nothing to motivate the premises. The first premise, whatever it turns out to be, if she never formalizes it, it's not a true premise. So all premises are...
We might think the premises are true and the argument is valid and be motivated to accept the conclusion. But those facts and the motivation that results may not be adequate for justification. The question is, what would be required for justification? Maybe it's something more than that. Yeah. Because I want to keep comparing this to the revelation case, or the star writing case. I've given that one before as well, which is that, when I give some argument that I don't have knowledge in that sense of the term, because say God doesn't exist, and so he didn't reveal things to me, and so I don't have knowledge because that's a requirement for knowledge that he exists and reveals things. I've given the argument, I'm expressing some of my beliefs and inferring that conclusion from them. Someone else may or may not be convinced, but I don't think I'm caught in any sort of self-undermining or contradictory loop here.
Well, sure, not if you're just saying to yourself that you're have the right belief, right? But if you're trying to claim that someone else is unjustified, you can't make that claim because you don't know if I'm unjustified. You can't say knowledge is, you can't make the academic move, which is self-defeating or is obviously probably maybe in the Pyrrhonian sense, you just suspend judgment about whether or not everyone has justification. But that's not what she's saying. She's saying that I am unjustified, and she can show that I'm unjustified. Well, that challenge is going to have to be applied to itself.
Well, if the show that you're unjustified involves or entails offering some justification that you're unjustified, of course that would be self-defeating in a kind of trivial way. But I don't think that's what she's saying. At least that's not what I would say if I was taking this line. It would be something rather like, look, I'm going to report some of the facts or some of the things I believe, and note that it's a kind of logical consequence of those that nobody has any justification. So you don't have any justification. Now, you may doubt some or all the premises or the inference rules that were used, or even that there's a conversation happening, whatever. You can have all the sorts of doubts that you want. But, insofar as you're engaging in the dialectic, I don't think she has to say, what I'm doing here is trying to justify the claim. Maybe she's trying to convince you. Maybe she's trying to just express her beliefs and inferences on the matter. I don't see why she'd have to couch that in terms of justification.
If you gave it in the form of the argument, you would be presupposing that argument forms are valid and have some convincing force. I don't know how you.
Yeah, so I already went over this with him the other night, Detroyer. Actually, 2 nights in a row.
Maybe you wouldn't.
So
maybe you would just say,
I don't think
it just doesn't amount to a justification. It's just performative or something. Okay, but it still doesn't motivate the view that I'm unjustified. It doesn't show that I'm unjustified. It can't show that I'm unjustified.
Yeah, well, and if showing is a matter of justification, then it won't, at least on her view. But I don't think that's what she's claiming to do.
I told him the other night, I use modus ponens.
She says, oh, you think you know something? Here's the argument for why you don't know something.
Yeah, so let's say I put it into modus ponens form. Okay, so I can use modus ponens. That doesn't mean that I think that I'm justified in using modus ponens or justified in believing the conclusion of a sound modus ponens argument.
Yeah, so you can falls from that. I'm not unjustified in whatever my belief is.
What?
I'm not motivated. I'm not unjustified by the conclusion of your argument.
You're not unjustified.
If the argument is sound, then it does follow that you're unjustified. Of course, you might question the premises or the form of the argument, but
the point is, if the fact that she gave an defeating, right, then it couldn't show that I'm unjustified.
It's not
The
self-defeating.
argument, I don't think, the argument doesn't entail or in any way assume that any justification is going on here. Unless, of course, there being an argument of this sort for some belief is adequate for justification. But I think that she would deny that. So,
And in no case can it be like, can she rationally claim that she's like, that's what she'll say. She says at the end of every argument that she's shown that you don't know anything.
Yeah, but again, I don't think the show there is meant to be something entailing justification. She's given some argument that you don't know anything. She's kind of...
What does that mean? Yeah. Great, so what force does that have?
Force? I mean, you might not be compelled.
But I'm still not unjustified in believing that I'm justified.
But you might not be compelled by the argument. That's another matter. That's where the conversation goes. If you disagree, then maybe you can explore that disagreement regarding the premises or the form of the argument. But at that sort of conversation, and the way it's presented, I don't think assumes in any way that she's justified or has any justified beliefs.
Well, sure, but I think that it kind of does. But the point is, even if we grant that, even if we grant that her notion of using arguments without justification is consistent, it couldn't follow from any arguments she gives that I am unjustified in any belief that I hold, because my beliefs are based on justification.
It doesn't even matter what it shouldn't even matter what my position is at all. If he accepts modus ponens and I give him a sound modus ponens argument, doesn't he, on his view, have to accept the conclusion, even if I did have a self-defeating worldview?
I mean, that might be tricky because, you might, if it's
look, I could write it on a piece of paper and hand it to him anonymously or something, right? Is it not then going to be a problem for him?
Whoever writes down the argument that concludes that no justification is possible, the same criticism would apply.
I don't see what the criticism is, though. I mean, they've just written down an argument. You may do with that as you please. If you agree with the premises and agree with the sort of form of the argument, then, it just follows from your commitments that you don't have any knowledge either. So in the conversation regarding these skeptical arguments, then the discussion might go to, do we accept these premises? Do we accept the inference rules and so on? Honestly, I don't. In this case and in most others, I don't see what talk of justification really is doing. I think a lot of the time it's not even that useful. It's not really adding much. But, yeah, I don't sort of see what I'm saying. I did see your Discord message about I could say some things about the probability raising stuff if you want. Because I think there's some issues that way.
I'm not saying I'm not saying this is the only way to attack the argument. I'm just saying that this is a pretty commonly accepted argument against the universal skeptic. Maybe you don't accept it, but maybe.
Yeah, I know things like this have been raised.
Take your reasons seriously, but I mean, even if it was, even if it was I forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah, I could say something briefly about the
But I couldn't be rational. I could if the point of like the argument is that I'm supposed to be like rationally compelled, right? Then I couldn't be, because it doesn't have.
Yeah, well,
the argument itself is saying that it's not rationally compelling by saying that it's not justified.
If the notion of justification is sort of connected to rationality in that way, so for example, you might think, to be rationally compelled is to have some, epistemic justification for some belief. That's strong epistemic, whatever, something like that. And not necessarily justification itself, but whatever. That's just going to turn on what the requirements of rationality are, or epistemic rationality, and whether justification is a requirement or not. Because it does seem, a little weird to say that if there's no justification, then like there's also no rationality. I think that's probably straining the use of rationality. Anyway, you could use it that way. You could use it another way, which doesn't have anything to do with justification. I don't know if that was the best.
Well, how about there's no knowledge that there's rationality?
Yeah, well, it's the same thing, right? I mean, it depends on whether, rationality, at least epistemic rationality, requires knowledge.
It's meant to get. That's what epistemically. Isn't that what we're talking about? We talk about like epistemic reasons, like getting at the truth, arriving at something that counts as knowledge. It's supposed to be the
rationality
between epistemic rationality and like practical rationality and other concepts of rationality we might have.
Yeah, so I might think of being epistemically rational as like, I don't know, believing what you have most reason to believe or something like that, and I'm going to allow that what you quote unquote have most reason to believe, whatever exactly that is cashed out with. Doesn't have to involve justification, whatever that means here. So, take an example. If what I have most reason to believe is, I don't know, something to do with my doxastic commitments, what I'm, maybe I want to have a consistent view that kind of accords with my experiences, whatever, and that will commit me to believing certain things and not believing other things. Now, whether the beliefs I have that satisfy those epistemic reasons or doxastic reasons are themselves justified, that might be a further question, because justification might be something that can come apart from doxastic reasons in that sense. There's a lot of other things that could be said there, but
I mean, look, we're just talking about what we have most reason to believe. It just seems like, but without justification, we're just talking about the same thing, because for some reason you're not like, you want to be able to be consistently skeptical. Like, it doesn't seem like there's a good motivation to believe that, or to accept it as like a rational, like a good model of epistemology.
I mean, you could say, on the way that we're thinking about these terms, that what we're justified in believing is that which we have most reason to believe, or something like that. But I guess that would be to think about it in potentially a way other than what I was talking about. So I don't think a whole lot turns on that, really. you could describe or elucidate rationality in that way if you want. But then she's just going to end up saying, well, in that sense of rationality, no one's rational, Because if rationality requires justification or most reason to believe whatever entails some justification, then we don't have most reason to believe anything, or perhaps reason to believe anything. So that's all going to be consistent, I think.
All right. So on the sense of rationality that I'm using, it's self-defeating, right?
No. Well, I don't. So like, it seems consistent to say, look, in that sense of rationality, no one is rational in, no one has justification, no one has, most reasons to believe things, whatever you think, all the things you think are kind of connected with each other like this, and then, but then she still says, here's my argument, blah, blah, blah. You may not be compelled by it, but I don't think she's saying anything that undermines her own view. Unless, of course, the kind of procedure that she goes through would be to offer a justification. But by her own means, it isn't. Now, you could argue that she's wrong to say that. Yeah, so if it turns out that whatever justification requires.
What are you fucking talking about, mate? Going on and on and on. The fuck are you talking about?
It's a common reaction to Detroyer.
Okay, that's enough for the comedy relief. What were you saying?
I forget.
On the sense, or on if the procedure is, I might say that it's not, it's just performative for you to say that your argument.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Counts as justification. Yeah. Even if it is, then it has no rational compelling. That doesn't compel me, in any sense. Detroyer, in any sense, right? How can it be compelling? How can the argument be compelling if there's no? In order to be consistent, we admit that there's no justification for accepting the premises, even. So why are we listening to the argument?
Why would you listen to any argument? If you're interested in resolving some dispute.
Right. Isn't that how it's resolved? I mean, you present me with an argument that you take the premises to be justified in believing that they're true. That's how I think them to be true.
We might take them as such, but I don't think that's actually as essential for the disagreement and for the kind of debate or discussion. Like, look, suppose we have some disagreement, and we start kind of laying out some of the inferences we draw to our respective conclusions, and we might both agree that, I guess, all of our beliefs here, actually, they don't count as justified, but okay, we can still engage in this dialogue. We can ask what various inferences we might make to the different conclusions, and explain where we disagree, and maybe say more regarding why we disagree. I don't think any of that requires the commitment to, or entails that, we're justified in any of our beliefs there. I guess if the idea is that you're only interested in engaging in those sorts of dialogues under the presumption that both sides think they're justified in their view. I mean, that could be your prerogative, I suppose.
God, man! What the fuck? Get on with it! You got nothing to say!
But, you know, that's just a general feature that people can choose not to engage in these sorts of conversations. For most of these conversations regarding some disagreement, I don't think that really bears at all. It's like, you know, you're deciding whether to engage, you explore some disagreement, and it turns on whether, you know, you think your opponent thinks their beliefs fall under this category, knowledge or justification. I don't see that, you know, for me, maybe not everyone shares my approach here. That's sort of not relevant almost all the time to the dispute. So, you know, someone could say that they think they do, or that they think they don't. Okay, but we can still engage in the same dialogue either way. So anyway,
we can engage in the dialogue, but it just seems like okay. So we're just having a completely different type of. I mean, you would at least agree that
everything in the dialogue could be the same for me.
Okay.
Like, what would have to change? I mean, I guess sometimes people say that when they're asking for like support for some premise, they're looking for a quote-unquote justification. I mean, insofar as they're doing that, and they're employing the same sense of justification here, which is dubious, but whatever, suppose they are. That's something that would be a mistake or wouldn't happen in the discussion where they don't grant that they have justification for their beliefs. But I don't think that's, you know, that's just language there or request there that's not, for me, isn't really relevant to a lot of these disputes, you know. Like again,
if you agree that it like goes against the norms of argumentation,
does it? I mean, I think what sort of norms are there? Because like there are things like, I don't know, stating your views, offering arguments, maybe appealing to facts that seem to indicate in some way, or from which you infer the truth of your view, something like that.
I think it's far-fetched to say that all that underlies some kind of justification.
Yeah, so if it turns out that justification, like that part of that just is what justification is, you know, then okay, how is that? Like, I feel like, you know, if having justification is like, I don't know, having an argument or something like that, then, or something like that, that's involved in that sort of dialogue, then we would have justifications. But I take it that that's not what's being taken to be justification or sufficient for justification. So,
but just because someone just keeps like moving as like a proprietary idea of justification, which is like intrinsically unsatisfiable, I don't see that as something I should take serious.
Well, I mean, I think there are, trivially you can have some notion of quote unquote justification, which is unsatisfiable. The question is maybe, you know, whether that's the notion that we're using here.
It's not just that it's unsatisfied, it's like in principle, it's like you have this concept, but built into the concept that it's never satisfied.
Okay. Well, then on that,
what's the concept?
On that concept, well, that's a concept that has no, extension. No one has justification or knowledge in that sense of the terms. I'm willing to just say, if I think that's right, okay, then I have no knowledge or justification in that sense of the term. I might not prefer to use the terms that way, right? When I say, quote unquote, that I have justification, if I do, I might be meaning something else, which isn't unsatisfiable in that way. And then the dispute, if there was one, isn't substantive.
So if someone comes up to you and they say, you don't know anything, and here's why, give you such and such reasons.
Sure.
Your response is to just dissolve the issue by saying that it doesn't map onto your concept? Or
no, I don't think that's dissolving it.
You don't even need the concept?
Well, I might also say that, but I might agree with them on their sense of the term. So what I would do is try to understand, by knowledge, what they're talking about. What are the conditions for knowledge on their sense of the term? And, I'm just going to try to figure out, as I do anything else, whether my beliefs satisfy, or any of those beliefs, my beliefs satisfy those conditions. If I think they do,